together with my partner Olaf at Conversation Design Institute. And what we've been doing at Conversation Design Institute is really recognize conversation design as a serious and important job going forward in this world of conversational AI. And we've always developed courses that were very technology agnostic. Our approach is really companies are going to use technology or need technology and people to automate conversations. And we've always focused on teaching people very technology agnostic skills. And we have a workflow for that, and we teach and certify people on it. And now this collaboration with Botsociety is a very wonderful step in now teaching these people, how to work with a design tool like Botsociety. So we always say, like, there's hammers and we train carpenters. Now we're giving these carpenters a specific hammer called Botsociety that's going to help them create better conversations for their chatbots and voice assistants.
Oh, you're muted, Vittorio.
Awesome, that's great. And Dylan, please introduce yourself.
Sure. So I'm Dylan. Nice to meet everybody. I'm from the Botsociety team. I joined almost 3 years ago, like maybe 2.5 years ago now. So pretty soon after the company was founded. And it's been great working with Vittorio and the rest of the team. I actually joined Botsociety not knowing much about the conversational AI space, but I'm very passionate about technology and design. So I learned very quickly, and especially since I work with our customers. I'm from the customer success side. So talking with all of these customers, I had to develop these skills, these conversation design skills, and learn about the conversation design process, industry best practices, which have evolved throughout the years. And just through working with these customers, it's been fascinating to learn about all the stuff that goes into conversation design. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think you've been talking with more than 200, like we did the count the other day, 200 conversation design teams so far, about how they work. So a lot of things going on. Yeah, and so those are the guests. I'm excited to continue talking just a little bit of how this is going to work. I'm going to ask Dylan and Hans some questions about their work and how they created the course and what they learned from it and what they're be teaching the course. And then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have questions, you can type them at any time with a Q&A kind of feature or in the chat, but I may miss that in the chat. So just mention the Q&A feature. And then at the end, I'm gonna pick them up and ask them to our guests. So yeah, stick around for the Q&A session later. All right, awesome. So let's jump into the so why did you decide to like work together on a course? I don't know if who wants to pick it up or both, but I think that's
yeah, and I think I initially reached out to you guys years ago when we were starting out. You guys were a little ahead of us. But for me, the idea was always around, we used to be called RoboCopy, but the idea that you've got these tech companies and they want to build tools and technologies, and that's what they want to focus on. But at the end of the day, they have customers that don't really know, they just, you can't just give them a tool, have them plug it in and have it work. So for me, that was always, when we started this adventure, it's like, oh, we're going to end up working with these companies, like these tech companies, because they want to educate their customers as well on how to use it. And it will never be their main focus, their core business. So that has always been something for me. As we were exploring, going on the journey of educating people on conversation design and promoting the craft, like Botsociety was always like top of mind. It's like, all right, so they have the same problem. They have the right community for us to work with, that we want to engage with. They have clients that are going to have this problem of okay, now you've given us the tools, but how do we actually use it and think about design? So for me, that was always the the initial reason of being part of your ecosystem and collaborating. And I think we probably discussed this in our first call 2 years ago. It's like, hey, that'd be cool to do, and now it's finally happening. So I think that's how it started from our end.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback off of that. So exactly what you just said, you guys are focused on creating these courses and enabling these teams to learn about conversation design and the conversation design process. And we work with conversation design teams that are using our tool for their projects, but sometimes they are looking for more resources to, get better at conversation design, keep up with the trends in the industry. And a lot of the enterprise customers that we actually work with, some of them, this is their first project. This is their first conversation design project, or maybe they've already worked on a project, but now they're trying to make their bot more conversational. And so if that's the case, if they're trying to make it more conversational and they're looking to learn more about conversation design, it's usually, they're looking for resources online. We have a lot of resources on our website, but they also come across your website and find that you guys have all these courses on different topics in conversation design. So it just made a lot of sense for us to work together on this course. We've been working together on other stuff in the past, so it just made a lot of sense to produce a course on using Botsociety and thinking about it in the conversation design lens.
Yeah, and I guess to add to that as well. So for us, we see there's going to be like 5 million people that are going to be designing, configuring, deploying, managing AI assistants. And if we don't create some alignment on how they're going to be doing that, it's going to be a very tough market. And you see that now, right? There's enterprises are trying to hire conversation designers, but they don't really know what to look for and how to at least qualify all their applicants. Then you have all these other designers that have different job titles, different skill sets, different approaches to things, right? So it's very fragmented, and it makes it difficult for the industry to advance as a whole. So it's very much, we're very motivated to then work with you guys to make sure, okay, you have that community of designers, you're working with these enterprises. Let's try and get them thinking the same way about designing conversations, because that's, it's going to help them directly, but it's going to benefit the industry as a whole as well.
Yeah, and if I can also add something to that, I think what's cool about this course is the fact that we're adding a Botsociety certificate to it. And it's interesting, like a lot of people are getting into conversation design. They're like pivoting from a different career path, something similar but different. So maybe they were in content strategy, or they were a UX designer for GUIs, or they were in linguistics, and now they've come across conversation design as a career. And if they're still looking, like they've discovered Botsociety and they've discovered that there's a dedicated tool for conversation design, but they need a little bit more to help them, with their, to like find the next opportunity in their career in conversation design. What's cool is that they can take this course, learn about Botsociety, and then receive that certificate, which can probably help them, find that next opportunity in conversation design in their career, because they have this, they're certified conversation designers on Botsociety. So I think that's a really nice touch. Like it's really cool that we not only did we create the course content, but then you're also asking a bunch of questions throughout the course, and then upon completing or like answering your questions and completing the prompts that you give them to design in Botsociety, they have like a working design that they can use in their portfolio, and they have that certificate that they can take to people that, or companies that they're recruiting with or interviewing with.
Yeah, and what I said, I think a couple of years from now, or maybe next year already, it's definitely something we're working towards, is that people can say, I'm a certified conversation designer with a certificate for Botsociety and Rasa. That means that if I go to a company and it's an enterprise and these are the tools that they use, all right, I know how to design conversations, and I can actually apply it with these two specific technologies and design tools. Or I think if we can get the industry at that level, that's where it just solves a lot of problems, I guess. And it's also for people, it just, it makes it easier to promote yourself, to also have the confidence, right? To sort of like, if you have a certificate because you followed a course, you've put in the hours, you've prepared for an exam, and now head up high, and you're like, all right, I'm applying for this job, and I know my stuff because I went to school for this, right? And it just changes. It makes it a real thing, and that's what's going to be very valuable, I guess.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that as well. Also because I think the conversation design skill, given that the space is still relatively new, it's very hard to assess when you're hiring as well, right? So like putting myself on the other side of the equation, like it's unless you have someone that is really, really strong internally, which is very rare, or it's not common at least, then it's difficult to build a new team, because it's difficult to judge that kind of skill. And then, the certification kind of gives you a shortcut to that, or at least a good signal for sure. Also on the other side, I think there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, and that's also like why we, with particularly those teams, if you're looking to hire, you're looking to build a team, it's very complicated. So our focus at the general CDI courses are very much on that workflow, where we really just know if you follow these steps of happy conversations and detailed conversations, you're going to be okay. Like what you're producing might not be brilliant yet, but if you just follow these steps, you're going to put out good chatbots and voice assistants. So if you have your team go through these steps, and then you add a new team member that also understands those steps, it's wheels are in motion, be part of it, and you can contribute much faster. And it also just makes it very simple to disqualify people if they don't know their stuff. So now if you know that somebody can follow this workflow and they know how to use Botsociety, and the chatbot's not performing, well, then you also, you can hold people accountable, and people can be, people can take ownership of problems. But if it's just chaos and nobody really knows what they're doing, and they all have their own little approach to solving problems, like who's going to be responsible for the performance at the end of the day of that project, right? So you need to have qualifications in place and responsibilities, and you can only give responsibility if you have an outlined approach of how you want to do things, right? So it all ties together.
I totally agree with that. And maybe just to give this a little bit more meat, like, can you spoil to us, like on a very, I actually already know this, of course, but I'm asking like those, so I'm asking like, what is the high level like syllabus of the course, more or less, or like what are the main sections, just to give our audience an idea of what we're talking about. Otherwise, I'm feeling like, yeah.
Dylan can dream this, so go for it, Dylan.
Sure, yeah. So we broke it up into 9 different sections, and each section focuses on key features of Botsociety and how to use Botsociety most effectively. And so lesson 1, it's like a getting started chapter or lesson, where we go through the basics of Botsociety, like what it is, where you can sign up, how to sign up, basically making sense of what is this tool that you're about to use. And then lesson 2, it's talking about designing paths. Right. So it goes into conversation design best practices, like gets more into conversation design practices. So if you're thinking like a conversation designer, and you're thinking, I want to design a happy path for my use case, then that's what that lesson would talk about: designing the happy paths, designing other paths like repair paths, and so on. And as you get through the lessons, it touches on more and more of these features in Botsociety relating to the conversation design process.
Very interesting. Yeah, and I think it's a very exciting, I think, that you take it from. At least that was my experience while like going through a course, like from the very basis to the more complex patterns and design techniques that you can use.
Yeah, and then we're just going to be I see this course also as something as a living document almost, right? Because if there's new features that are going to be very important, we're just going to continue adding content for that, right? And continue have people, create assignments and projects. If there's something cool, then we can just always record new videos on it and teach people that and make it part of it for people to just sort of commit to Bot Society as their tool for designing conversations.
Yeah, and just to have an idea, like how much have you to be working on the course?
How much effort goes into a course?
Well, when did you start working on it? Yeah, how much?
Oh, when? God, how long? When was that, Dylan?
Maybe like, I would say 4 months ago, right?
Really? Yeah.
Like when
not full
we kind
time
of got things going, we kind of started, talking about it 4 months ago, and then coming up with the content of the course, structuring the lessons, and then jumping into recording the lessons and all that. So I would say like 4 months ago.
Yeah, and a lot of time it goes into structuring and figuring out what is it, because it's like, what's the audience, right? These are people that are interested in conversation design already. They're conversation designers already, but what does that mean? That already means something different for everybody else. So what's like the knowledge, like what's the level of knowledge that they have, and what is it that's going to excite? What are their must knows? What is going to excite them, and what's going to prepare them for work? So it's finding that balance in the preparation, structuring that, and then there's the tedious task of recording everything 20 times.
Yeah, I remember I was working with Jasper from your team, it's been great working with him, by the way. So we were working on recording the lessons together, and I remember there was one lesson that like there was something that we left out that was critical. And so we ended up having to shoot it again. And so like it was interesting. Like this was my first time creating a course. And so it was interesting how much really goes into it. Like it's not just, let's create a course, let's record a couple of, let's do some screen recordings and some voiceovers and we have a course. It's like, no, let's think about this strategically. Like what are the lessons? How do we want to record these? What do we want to show? And then ultimately, like even after you go through all those recordings, sometimes there are still some things missing, or maybe, it doesn't feel like we have a really good transition from this lesson to this lesson. What can we add to it? So, let's record something more. So definitely it was interesting creating the course with Jasper.
Yeah, and it's kind of it is like product development, right? It's just like, who's the audience, who's going to be engaging with this course, what do they need to know, what do they care about, and then you sort of validate that. It's a very, very rough draft first as an MVP that you talk over with everybody involved, and then, but I guess with the course, once it goes live and it's there, like you can't really change the feature anymore, right? So you want to do all that, all that work before you even launch it, which I guess is the difference there. But yeah, it's a ton of fun. I love doing the work. It's a great project.
That's very interesting, yeah. And since we have, I think, another 15 to 20 minutes for my questions before the audience. And since you touched on this, Hans, maybe you guys want to talk about it. Like, who would benefit from the course the most, in your opinion? Since you structured it and you conceptualized it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody that is already using Bot Society as a tool is going to learn much more about, obviously there's the new version, but how do I make best use of it? Also, what's the thinking behind all the features, right? You may log in, you may use it for your work, you may use it to design conversations, but hearing Dylan explain why a specific feature is there, what the thinking behind it is just going to help you get more value from the tool. So I think that's a big chunk of the people. But at the same time, and I saw someone put that in the Q&A also as a question, it's like, how do I promote myself as a designer, get job ready in a way? Lots of people that are just interested in conversation design, if you follow this course and you create an account at Botsociety, which you'll have, it's going to allow you to just get better, but also build a portfolio and have some work to share and have projects that you can talk about with people. So I think it goes both ways. It's these teams already working with it, and people just trying to get better at designing conversations.
Yeah, and I totally agree, and I think at Botsociety we're always thinking about how to structure a product that allows you to take a lot of different design approaches. Of course, all conversational design approaches, but a lot of different ones. And I think you guys are very good in like articulating a clear vision for a strong, opinionated but abstract process. And so I'm really excited about this mixing those two expertise for this course. I think that's one of the things that we'll be looking for. So if you already know Botsociety, you're kind of like looking at the other side of the coin. And if you already took conversation design course, then you're looking at the more abstract tooling and hands-on thing. So I totally see that. And I don't know if Dylan wanted to add anything about this topic, but
I just wanted to add one thing, which is I think also not only individuals that are getting into conversation design, but also teams that are getting into conversation design, or even teams at enterprises that are getting into conversation design. So like if you're looking for more like resources on how to use Botsociety, obviously you can contact us to have conversations. But I think moreover, you can also take this course and learn about not only how to use Botsociety, but like as I touched on earlier, a lot of the course, it's talking about Botsociety, but it's talking about it while thinking about the conversation design process. And so if you're a team at an enterprise or any other company that is trying to learn more about the conversation design process, it might be interesting to take this course and see not only how to use Botsociety, but also how to use Botsociety while thinking about your conversation design process, and see if you maybe you can learn something more about how to structure your process, or you can just reinforce the current methodology that you have.
Yeah, and I like it. I think for a lot of teams to sort of, I like how you say that it's not just how do I design a better conversation, it's also how do I become a better conversation designer in terms of how do I collaborate with my colleagues, with my stakeholders, and Botsociety, really streamlines the entire operation, and I think so. It's really how do I design a good conversation, but also how do I get that entire team working in that tool. And making use of that, if the export, like prototyping and testing it out with people, exporting it and deploying it with Rasa or Dialogflow. It's not just like how do I craft a conversation. No, this sits at the heart of your operation, right? And it integrates with your technology, and everybody involved with the team is going to be using this tool. So yeah, it's a big deal. Let's put it that way.
Do you think the course is only for designers? Because I get this question a lot from, indie developers who are approaching the space. Maybe they're working inside an agency, or they're freelancers. And so sometimes there's not really the opportunity of having, like in a bigger team, you would have like a dedicated designer. And so do you think this would make sense even for folks who are not designers themselves? Sure.
Yeah, because it just tells you everything. Like it touches on all the different things. Like for us, when we look at what a team looks like, there's the AI trainers that really think about intent structures and then training language models. Then there's conversation designers that think about the structure of the conversations, and the copywriters that really do the copyright and think about psychology and personality, but that does not always mean that it's completely different people. So, we have these 3 certificates, but what we see most of our students have 2. Like when everybody's kind of thinking about the flow of the conversations. Everybody starts out with conversation designer, but then some people gravitate more towards the AI training side and the technical side, and doing some API integrations and making it transactional. And other people become more interested in the creative side of it in terms of personality. But a lot of times people have multiple certificates. So I also think if you're an indie designer and you just want to create a very clear, simple design, then following this course, using Botsociety for that, and then just exporting that to Dialogflow is just going to help you on your own be more productive, even if you're doing all the work yourself and wearing multiple hats.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Sorry, Dylan, I saw you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think also it's like, as you're saying, developers that are also, trying to learn a little bit more about conversation design. I think it's also interesting when you're working in a team setting, and sometimes the development team, maybe, I don't want to point any fingers at developers, but maybe sometimes they are a little skeptical about having a dedicated conversation design tool. Or maybe they just, it's so new to them, this conversation design space, that they don't think it's maybe they feel threatened also by the conversation design team having a tool like Botsociety. But what we've seen working with teams is that sometimes just having a discussion with them about conversation design and talking about how it can actually impact their work in a positive way as well, by having a dedicated design tool that natively integrates with their tech stack, or has some kind of export functionality that makes it super easy to export the conversation content, like the conversational flows, into the format that they need, all the while having collaboration features that allow the engineering team and the designers to collaborate on the design at the same time. I think that's huge. And so also developers checking out a course like this to understand more about conversation design, understand a little bit more about the world that the designers are in and how they're thinking about the whole process, I think could be super helpful as well. And then moreover, you guys, CDI, Conversation Design Institute, you also have a course on Raza. So it's especially if the development team is using Raza, then it might be useful to learn about how the design team is leveraging Botsociety and learning more about the conversation design process. And then also being able to take another course on Raza to better your skills using that, and understanding how they integrate together.
Absolutely, yeah, I can totally see that happening in also big teams. That's a good point. All right, great. I think it's time to open to the questions from the audience. By the way, I wanted to give a shout out to Greg. Hey, Greg, and to Hiba. Yes, Dylan has a skate in his background. That's true. And it's a nice skate. All right, awesome. So feel free to write the questions in the Q&A section or in the chat. We're already at 8, so I'm going to go through them. But feel free to add more. If you have other questions for me, for Dylan, or my mic just died, for Hans, of course. So I'm going to pick up the first one that I see here. It is from Alice. I think I'm pronouncing this right. Sorry if I'm butchering your name up. Alice Butter. And she's asking, when I apply for a job, they'd like to see some experience in conversation design. What would your best advice be to overcome this problem besides doing courses?
Yeah. What I've been noticing lately is that a lot of companies, I think we saw a posting for someone with 10 years of Raza experience, which was all right, that's impossible, so it's there's very few people with lots of experience. But a lot of times what I see now is that they actually want, oh, what's happening there? 30 years of Botsociety experience, yeah. But yes, a lot of times they want someone that understands conversation design a little bit, but they actually, because they're looking to build a team, they often look for people that have like 10 years experience in a senior position in an enterprise that also understand a little bit about conversation design. So they ask for 10 years of experience in conversation design. That's actually what they're looking for, is just someone that knows how to build a team and manage it a little bit and make design important. But that's not, the question. The question is, what I would advise besides the course is really use the prototyping tool. Use Botsociety and build a portfolio. Try to be active in the community. Write blog posts. We have an online place. Shoot us an email. We can publish some of this stuff. We can have you on. Just put in the work. And even if nobody's paying you for the work, just put in the work. Show up every day as a conversation designer and build something and share it with the world and talk about it. And that way you do build up that reputation in the industry rather quickly, because it's still early days. So if you're committed now, I think you can get a lot going rather pretty soon, actually. So yeah, try to find other people in the community, collaborate on a project, and put it together. Then create a little prototype, write a blog post about that prototype, and build a reputation.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think, hey, Austin, by the way, I think the having an original portfolio can be really powerful, especially if you're, creating designs to show off that you understand certain conversation design concepts, or that you really are able to, take a concept and run with it, like. Much like you would do, like putting, I don't know, an iPhone redesign on Behance. Like nobody's gonna actually hire you to redesign the iPhone, right? But it's a good show off that you understand the principles, say on mobile design in that case. I think if you do the same thing for conversation design and say you take the concept, I don't know, of the Grumpy bot, and you express it in a design, and you say, I tried, redesigning the personality of this bot or this other thing. I think that's a lot of fun, and in doing it, like you would have fun doing that, and it's a good show off for your portfolio. It doesn't need to be an actual, like I see a lot of designers who are like, oh, but like I don't have an actual project that I can put on the portfolio precisely because I'm starting out now. But I think you don't need that. I think as long as something interesting, it should go into your portfolio, even if it's just a design.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff that you're going to end up working on is going to be under NDA. You're not even going to be able to share it anyways. Or that's also a thing, like let's say I developed the most amazing chatbot, and and I go in for an interview and I want to show it live. Maybe the language model has changed or somebody else made a change, so you don't even know if you're going to get the right answer at the right time. So that's also just making it very difficult to show real work. It's something that we, from our agency side, also always deal with. So it's better to just create cool stuff and be able to articulate it, your decision making behind it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad Alice is happy for the answer. I'm going to pick some other random ones. Hiba made a lot of questions, so I'm gonna pick one and then take other questions and then go back to the other ones you asked. I'm gonna pick this one. What makes me as a designer use Botsociety and not Figma? What's the added value? I think it's a good question. Like, it's Figma is a great tool. I don't know if Dylan, you want to pick it up or answer. I can of course.
Sure, I can give my 2 cents, and then I guess we can kind of expand on it. But I think the most important thing is that Figma, it's a great tool. We use Figma for designing our product, designing Botsociety. But when it comes to using Figma, you're using it mostly for designing graphical user interfaces, like designing UI of products, not conversations. And so actually one of the things that inspired Vittorio and the founding team at Botsociety to create Botsociety is because there was no dedicated conversation design tool. And as conversation as the conversation design space was growing and more of these conversational AI projects were coming up, there was a real need to have a dedicated conversation design tool. And so like, if you think about it, Figma doesn't have dedicated features for conversation design. It's not easy to design conversational flows. There's no way to design to easily design a happy path with connections to a repair path. Like you would literally have to design every single component. Like you would have to design the connection as well, and the path and the messages. Whereas with Botsociety, you're focusing on designing the content. So you're really focusing on that conversation. And the other stuff like the connections in the past, that's all created for you as you're designing out this conversational experience. And then at the same time, like we do use a lot of we do implement a lot of the features that Figma is known for as well. So we have like collaboration features, we have real-time collaboration, so multiple people can design in the same design file at the same time. You can leave comments, you can share your design. There's different permission settings. You can preview your prototype, just like in Figma. You can press play to like preview maybe like, let's say the website that you just created, like the prototype of the website. Well, in Botsociety, you can press play and actually see the final user experience of the bot that you just designed. And then we also have a prototype mode where you can test that design, like input whatever you want, capture that data, and then think about how those responses can be put into your conversation design to enhance the experience. So I guess that's more than 2 cents. I kind of went on about that. That question is asked a lot actually with people that are exploring Botsociety. Like when I have conversations with people that are looking at tools like Botsociety, they're sometimes coming from using Figma. So I say that explanation a lot, but I'll let you guys add on to that if you want.
I'll go ahead.
No, please.
All right, I'll be the outsider here, and I'll like my perspective on this is, the world went from personal computing to mobile to now AI assistants, right? And all of a sudden we're dealing with conversational interfaces, and it went from graphical design to UX design to now conversation design. And I think if you look at, so conversation design is not an add-on for a UX designer or a graphical designer. It is an entire new design discipline for an entire new interface. So if you look, and for me, it becomes very logical then as well that that's going to come with its own set of dedicated tools. So I think, using Figma to design conversations is really, putting a UX designer on a 20-minute course and then thinking he's a conversation designer. No, it's an industry, it's a field, it's an entirely different mindset, and it deserves a dedicated skill with that interface in mind. And I think once you start designing conversations, you'll quickly realize that a tool like Figma is not going to get you there, because it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And like Greg just said in chat, it's like using a pencil to carve a sculpture. I mean, you can do
Thanks, Greg.
It's the sculpture is going to be full of graphite. That's not too, really don't want that. All right, cool. Moving on to the next question. Dina Elsire. Again, sorry, I'm Italian. I would pronounce everything like Dina Elsire. Is asking, hello, it's a general question actually, but I need to know, as I'm trying to build a team, what qualifications I need to have to be a conversation designer. And I think we have a similar, I'm just going to group it with a similar, although different question by Zine Hussein, who was asking, what foundational skills should one look for in a conversation designer, especially when you're starting a chatbot team in the enterprise? I feel like these two questions are kind of like the two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, we see 3 roles. Like larger teams, when they really start to scale, you sort of see 3 roles. There's AI trainers, the more turning data into understanding. There's the conversation designers turning knowledge into a flow, and then the copywriters that turn words into dialogue. all these people, why is there 3 roles? Because they kind of have different backgrounds of what people, what they're good at. So for these AI trainer guys, we see a lot of times it's like light data science, it's overqualified customer service people that end up in those roles at the enterprise. Then for the conversation designers, these are often people with the user experience background, but also content management, content writers. And then if you look at the conversational copywriters, these people come more, really hardcore copywriting or a marketing type people. That's sort of those are often the backgrounds. And then there's the linguist before Greg pops up in the chat. I forgot about them. So there's a computational linguist that end up as AI trainer and the copywriting linguists that are part of that as well. So there's people from all walks of life that end up in these teams. And what we've been doing actually is we put together an assessment that allows us. So a lot of companies, what they'll do is they'll give us like 50 people in their organization. We give them a psychological test of it takes about 40 minutes to complete, and it allows us to tell you kind of like who could potentially become a conversation designer, and it has to do with the mindset, but also very much the ability to say, all right, this is new and I'm curious and I want to learn and I recognize that I have a lot to learn. But it's all these different backgrounds. And if you're an enterprise, you're going to be sourcing from different departments a lot of the time, but it often starts with customer service and content writers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, I saw Dylan want to say something, but you were muted, so I cut you off.
No, I'm just nodding my head.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's great. No, I think that's a great answer. And I think like on the practical level, like having experience with conversation design at the moment, I think is the most is the strongest point because like Hans said, like there's a lot of different pathways to that.
What I love, I don't remember who said that recently, but I really loved it. It said if you're looking to level up your career, you can become a doctor or a lawyer. If you become a conversation designer, people from all walks of life, you become a conversation designer, all of a sudden you're at the heart of AI, right? It's like a big job. All of a sudden you're at the AI department. It's a great way to really put yourself on the map, and very quickly we forgot about this category: failed novelist, failed screenwriters. There's lots of those. I wanted to be a writer, a novelist when I was in university. So a lot of those people end up, as copywriters, as conversation designers.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not say failed, but yeah. Okay, I'm also picking up one question from chat, and I'm gonna pick up another one from the Q&A section. Rob Gilder is asking, what advice would you give to teams that have no conversation design experience, but want to enhance the design of an existing bot?
If you have no experience and you want, I guess it's just like you're more on the engineering side. You end up at a department, there's a chatbot there, and it just needs to get better. I guess if you have people that want to learn and figure it out, otherwise just it depends on the type of chatbot. If it's a very simple thing that needs some polishing up, bring in someone, bring in an expert for a couple of days and they can polish it up real quick. If it looks like there's some of these legacy chatbots that have a lot of content in them, and if you take a close look, it turns out they have to redo everything because they were just built with legacy technologies. Then it becomes a serious project. Then I guess you got to give us a call. But other than that, it sort of depends on the scope of the project. But you can do some quick hacks. In the courses, we have some fundamentals in there as well. But just make sure every sentence, one breath test. If it takes longer than one breath to sort of read out a message, it's too long. For every message, have an acknowledgement, a confirmation, and a clear prompt at the end. Like there's a checklist we can send you. Go over the bot real quick, and then sort of see how much work it needs. Right. So that's the way of doing it.
Yeah, and then this is my customer success side speaking, but I would say like look for tools that market themselves as conversation design tools to improve your bot, like Botsociety, and then get in touch. And we'd be happy to, provide a demo of Botsociety, but also talk through your project, what your priorities are, what you want to accomplish, in the next several quarters, and we can work together to figure out what that game plan looks like. And if Botsociety is part of that, then we can work together.
Yeah, just to give an example, like one of the things that I've seen users do is they have this bot and like the expectations, for example, that a bot sets to the users, like I am bot X, I can do, I'm destroying my desk here, I can do Y. The expectations were wrongly set, so a lot of users were frustrated by what they thought the bot could do, which was different than what the actual bot could do. And so they kind of recreated this first 4 messages in Botsociety, or they imported them with our import feature, it doesn't matter. And then, you can leverage quick test features to like send it to 10 different people, drop their feedback, and iterate on the design very fast and like improve it, which is kind of building on what Hans was saying. Sometimes there are quick hacks and sometimes there are longer things. And
there's always like 2 sides to it, right? Because there's the NLU with all these projects, like how well are you actually understanding what people say, and how much are you making sure that people feel understood, and testing that very quickly and going over that with a checklist of like how human centric is it, or is it inclusive in that you understand the different linguistic preferences that people have, but you also speak in an inclusive way for people to feel comfortable interacting with you. And there's like using a prototyping tool there and validating that quickly, like Vittorio says, it's going to give you insights real quick, and then it's about creating that game plan of what are the steps. And sometimes it's a tiny step with a big impact, and sometimes it's a 5-year project.
Right, and sometimes you don't know, right? So like we have a podcast episode coming up with the product owner of the Air France chatbot, messenger chatbot, and they started with a very small luggage chatbot, a very simple use case, and now it's a monster chatbot with 5 different personas split up, and like it's handling a lot of conversations. So I think that's the other thing about conversation design that it's exciting, is that you can start small and expand very quick, compared to say a graphical user interface where like it's more difficult to add, say, 100 features because your menu is going to explode. So I'm going to pick up another question by Tias Das. Again, sorry about the pronounce there. Does this course talk about designing for voice user interfaces? And can someone create a voice assistant prototype on Botsociety? If yes, how is designing for chat and voice bifurcated on the tool?
I'm just going to Google what bifurcated means.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in Dutch. It's no, I'm kidding. I don't know Dutch that much. But, yeah, how it's split.
Yeah. So
Like,
that makes sense. Different forks. Yeah. I mean, for us in general, apart from this course now, we design and teach people to design voice first, and what we mean by that is just really, design with the bare minimum and figure out how to have a conversation, and just the shortest, the smallest amount of real estate that you have, right? It's just the attention span of someone, and then the sound is gone. So if you can design for that and solve the design problem voice first, then you can use it in a chatbot, or you can use it in a multimodal design, right? So if you design voice first, you can use it in a chatbot, whereas if you design something in a chatbot, then you can't necessarily use it for voice. So that's our general design philosophy. Start voice first. If you do a chatbot, add a button and a picture, and enrich the experience. I think this course now it's mainly on chat focused. The example could be used for voice, but I think chat was mainly in mind. So
Yeah, chat was mainly in mind, and maybe that's something we'll add on also in the future if there's more requests about designing for voice in Bot Society. But to answer the second part of the question, in general, the course is mostly focused on chat, but with Bot Society, you can also design for voice. And like Hans is saying, you can take a voice first approach, design for a voice user interface, but at the same time, also design a multimodal experience that works for other devices, chat devices as well. So there is multimodal design functionality on Bot Society, either for like a custom voice experience that you're working on, or if you're designing for, let's say, the Google Assistant, which also has chat components to it as well. So like you could be designing for the different devices of Google Assistant, like maybe you're thinking about it first in that you're designing for a smart speaker, but with Bot Society, you can also design at the same time for a smart display and a smartphone, and thinking about like not only the voice component of it, but also what are the visual components and what are the chat components. Like on the smart display, there is voice, but there may also be like display prompts and images and all those things. So that's something that you can do on Bot Society.
Yeah, and just to build off on top of that, basically the way it works, you can check it out if you create a new design in Bot Society. And it's free, like you can just sign up, and there's an option that says custom voice device, I think, and or abstract channel with voice actually. And if you select that, you can design at the same time for a voice device, like a custom one. It could be your own company one, it could be an Alexa, whatever. And then a chat interface, and you can switch between this multimodal. It's very cool. Like you can, design something only for the phone, only for voice, both. You can do pretty much anything. So yeah, cool. Next question, Lauren Ferrandis. Again, I'm pronouncing everything as if you guys were from Italy. So sorry about that. She's asking, or he's asking, hi, my team and I are new to bot conversation design. Do you have any advice to help making a chatbot dialogue dynamic and less robotic to help with user retention and engagement?
Yeah, I mean, this comes down to so if you have, if you have the flow of your conversation, the next part, and that's what the conversational copywriter in CDI terminology would do, that thinks about the personality, but also the psychology, and then you start thinking about behavior design, right? So how do I make people engage? How do I increase motivation? How do I add a little spark to the flow? So part of it is just better copywriting and really understanding how to do it. And then apply behavior design. If you don't have all those skills yet, the quickest way to see if it works is to just read it out loud, right? So if you have your dialogue and you try to make it work, you and the design team can just read it out and listen to it. But what you can also do is just do very simple Wizard of Oz tests and actually read it out loud. And what we mean by that is, let's say you have your script written in the best way that you can do, you feel pretty good about it, just bring in like 10 random people and just let them speak freely, and then you read out your script. But what you'll discover is sometimes you'll say something, but the reaction is a bit, like they don't seem engaged, right? So sometimes when you talk to someone and you kind of want to sell them on something, you start talking a little different, and you start using, your tonality changes and your words change. And sometimes you're like, hey, how do I persuade people? Well, if you start playing that kind of as a game with people when you're testing your design, you're actually going to learn how you would do that in a conversation. So that, I think, that is actually like a quick way of understanding some of those principles and applying that already to make it a bit snappier and make it work better. The next step would be actually study behavior design and conversational copywriting a little more, because that's where you'll be cool. You really get the toolkit to start doing these things very effectively.
Awesome. All right, I think we're coming at the end of the hour. So there's still a lot of questions here, but I'm afraid we don't have time to go through all of them. But thank you very much for being here. We have recorded this, so I'll put it up on YouTube. If you're interested about the course, I'm going to post the link right now. More info here. And if somebody wanted to keep in touch with you guys, what is the best way to do that?
I guess reach out to me on LinkedIn, Hans Saddam, CDI, Conversation Design Institute. I'm easy to find there as the first step. But conversationdesigninstitute.com. There you'll find, the Bot Society course as well. Just reach out. We're easy to talk to. Also, we promote conversation design in the broadest sense possible. So if you have any questions, you just want to pick our brain, we're always happy to have a quick chat and share our thoughts. So yeah, website, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok. No. I love the confusion on your face there.
Did I paste the link wrong? I'm seeing that.
Oh, I think that was the HTML. It's botsociety.html. So that was the work in progress page.
Oh,
the
sorry
new
about that.
one.
All right.
If you go to Conversation Design Institute and then click on courses, you should be able to find it. So you go to the website.
Okay, that's what I've done. But...
Oh, is it?
Yep.
I think I just grabbed this link here. Yeah, this shit.
It should work.
Oh yeah, it should.
Let me know, Hiba. Okay, it's working now. Great. Okay. All right, and Dylan, if they want to keep in touch with you or ask you the questions we didn't get to here, because of course there's always stuff and you can ask them.
Yeah, definitely. Same as Hans. Reach out. You can reach out about anything, and you can either find me on LinkedIn. My last name's a little bit hard to remember how to spell, but if you just type in Bot Society on LinkedIn and then and Dylan, you should be able to find me. So feel free to reach out there or through the website as well, or even info@botsociety.com. That's our company email. So feel free to email us there with any questions, and we'll be happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. This is it for the VoiceUX of this month. We're going to have another VoiceUX hopefully in April. We're going to announce the guests very shortly, but I'm really excited about them. We're also coming up with a podcast episode that I'm really proud about. So stay in touch. And I'm sorry we didn't get to answer all the questions, but feel free to email us about them and reach out. Thank you so much to everyone for listening and participating from all over the world. You're a great community. We're very excited about that. And yeah, have a good rest of your morning, evening, night, depending on where you are.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.
I'll leave you to some more fireplace stuff.
Oh yeah, closing with the fire. That's nice.
Now I can sleep in peace. I guess we answered all the questions that were keeping them up at night.
Great seeing you, Cynthia. Oh, this is so wonderful. Good to see you, Austin.
Alrighty, I'm gonna drop off. Good to see you, Hans.
Yes, good to see you too, man. I mean, it's so funny. I'm like looking at the fireflies. It's calmed you down so quickly. Like, I was completely zoned out just looking at the fire. Yeah, good seeing you. You go enjoy lunch. I guess you still have to eat.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good night.
Have a good one. Cheers.